Hi. So I'm Who's Griffin, and I kind of want to have a little bit of a complaint about an issue that I have with Monster Hunter Wilds. Fundamentally, I'm just gonna put it out there. I think Monster Hunter Wilds, in terms of its combat systems, is maybe one of the best Monster Hunter games we have. I would understand, if you picked Generations Ultimate or Rise over it. I understand that, there if you prefer the faster Monster Hunters, they may be more up your alley. But Wild's combat, to me, is decently paced. It's not as slow as the older entries, it's not as methodical, but the combat is fun, and I think that's what's most important by far. For a modern audience, the combat is good. However, there is a very large divide in the Monster Hunter community, and it is the difference between Monster Hunter and Monster Fighter. And I feel like Wild has gone a little too hard on the Monster Fighter. It felt more like a boss rush to me than it did a Monster Hunter game. Don't get me wrong, the story is there to supplement that and to mitigate that a little. But let's look at the features of the older games. I'm gonna name some features that are controversial, but I want you to think, if that was implemented weirdly originally, I don't like the way that mechanic was originally implemented. You can readapt it for the modern audience as long as it's still around. That's what I think counts. So, hear me out. The first one, I know this is controversial, egg quests, right? You might think, they were so slow, they were so boring. They really weren't that bad in World. With the modern Ghillie Mantle, it really isn't that big of a deal. You're forced to have the Ghillie Mantle in Wilds. I don't know why there weren't egg quests. Maybe it's too slow, but there's no other way to learn the map. There's no real incentive to pay attention to where you're going. Your Seikrets carries you wherever you want to go. You can't sort of build up this repertoire of early on you did the more menial sloggy quests, and then later on you did the big monster fights. You've grown in strength so much you can take on the interference monster that was causing you issues in the egg quest, for example. And so I really feel like missing out on egg quests was one of the biggest misses that Capcom made in terms of Monster Hunter Wilds. Furthermore, in general, gathering quests just aren't there. I think there's a handful, and the little with the ones where you fight little Seikrets, or there are these little pink bugs. I don't remember what they're called, but they're kind of reminiscent. But at the end of the day, you're still fighting a monster. You're not slowly building up in power and increasing in strength in a gradual as in okay, they want to play into the whole guild authority thing, right? Which is fine, that's good, that's great, that's world building or whatever, that's aura farming, I get it. We do this for hype moments and shit. But if you want to play into the guild being an important presence, wouldn't making you do little trashy quests in order to slowly progress in rank, not slowly, it doesn't need to be a crawl, okay? We're not talking about 30 hours investment here from rank 1 to rank 2. But, the guild just needs to make sure that you're competent in gathering and that you can get yourself supplies to protect yourself and heal yourself. And it makes sense. It's not unlogical. It never felt jarring in the old games. It was tedious, but it was never why am I doing this? Of course, you're doing it because you're a Monster Hunter. If you look back at the older games, Monster Hunter 1, the item box was limited. It clearly was concerning itself with, the fact that this is a job, right? The fact that there is groundwork and legwork that has to be done in order to do the big fights, right? And as you go on further, that gets less and less focused on, but at the very least, exploration of the map has always been really grounded and very important, right? You went from literally having loading screens and the map taking up an item slot in your item pouch to, I genuinely could not tell you around, the way around the Scarlet Forest. I have an idea. I could follow the stream up to Athduna or whatever, but if you asked me for intricate details, I couldn't do it. I can tell you the back of ancient forests, the back alleyways and the little underground areas of ancient forest like it's nothing. Even though we had scout flies, it still felt meaningful to navigate the map. But in Wilds, we have like 3 minutes of phone time. And like, even excusing the whole like monster hunter, monster fighter thing, is that really the good mechanic? Is just letting the player sit on their phone a good thing? I don't think so, personally. Another thing that I feel has been relatively lacking in general has been like any form of material pressure. Like, getting the farm in the old games is like, oh, thank fuck, we got the farm, you know? Or like, in World, again, you could use these boosters, but it wasn't... like, a lot of the time in early game World, I was going out and getting honey. Or I was going out and collecting adamants or mites. It very much put a lot of pressure on the player to at least be aware. At least understand that, hey, you are consuming resources right now. This is important. But in Wilds, you really just rest and rest and rest in order to get what you need. Or you sit on the back of your Seikrets for 30 minutes, you get some phone time. Like, that's just, it's not an interesting mechanic anymore. I don't know why, like, we even have to bother, like, just put the materials in my pouch at that point. Why do I have to talk to Nada every 20 quests or so? I don't know how long it is, but like, just put the materials in my tent. Like, what does it matter? Like, it wants to make you think about, oh, you have this much resource left, you have that much resource. Well, if it's getting low, I'm just gonna rest 5 times and then go catch a lot of fish to make sure that my research points go back up. It really just doesn't feel like the game was designed with a real understanding of what Monster Hunter was at its core. It really understood the fighting. It added a load of variety to combat, in my opinion. I think the double weapon system is one of the best features that they added. Albeit, like I use double switch axe with one with power, one with raw, like I'm not a saint. I'm not experimenting with whole new ideas here, but it at least gives me a little bit of leverage to say, all right, well, I'm going to do this and this for this monster, as opposed to that person who might say they want to do that and that for this monster. But there's a level of time investment that is important in older Monster Hunters, not for power creeping, but for resource gathering and for knowledge gathering and even for hunting monsters. There is a little bit of time that you need, which, as a new player, it is really jarring. I'm not gonna lie. I've been playing Monster Hunter for a very long time, and I've been playing the older games that are slower. As I said, I've been playing Monster Hunter 1, I've played Freedom Unite, I've played Try Ultimate, 4U, and GU, World and Rise, of course. So I understand that, to me, gathering resources and, searching for monsters in a load of disconnected maps with loading screens between everywhere, I understand that that's not going to bother me as much as the average Joe. However, just knowing where the monsters were, does that add anything to the experience of Monster Hunter? Like, maybe, but weren't scout flies a pretty good compromise? As somebody who does prefer paintballs and hardcore slow tracking, weren't scout flies a pretty comfortable compromise? And I know that Wilds wasn't the one to do this, Rise was the one who started doing this, but that was a portable game. I get it a bit more, like just getting into it and going is kind of more important, I guess. But why even have paintballs in that case? It just feels like an arbitrary decision made for for no one's real benefit other than the tourist, which is fine, but couldn't there be a nice middle ground? Couldn't there be a compromise, maybe? That kind of boils down to all of my gripes with Wilds. You took away egg quests because they were frustrating. Well, couldn't there be a compromise? You know, we still have eggs in the game. There's still a Rathalos nest where you can carry the eggs. It only gives you research points now. The maps are so big and sprawling. Whoa, isn't that interesting? Tourist, please, come look at our awesome, pretty, amazing maps. But then you lose the intricacy and details of, like, the Ancient Forest or, like, the Elder's Recess, you know? It doesn't feel as personal anymore. And that kind of just, again, sums up everything. It feels like it's a game that really considered accessibility, which I am not against, but it did not consider the title, Monster Hunter. It's like Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. It's like, yeah, okay, this is fine and cool. Does it have to be a Banjo-Kazooie game almost? Like, again, I'm not saying this isn't a Monster Hunter. This is a very good and valid and fair Monster Hunter. And if it's your favorite, I'm glad. However, wouldn't it be nice to have a bit of variety? Wouldn't it be nice to have an egg quest if you're kind of not feeling up to fighting whatever the urgent monster is? Wouldn't it be nice to sort of understand a map and to get better at it, knowing, oh, I can quickly cut through here in order to get to this monster? Wouldn't it be nice to learn where monsters spawn? Again, I know where most of them spawn in Wilds, but I didn't have any incentive to do that. It's just a skill that you develop from playing a lot of the older games. But, like, if you told me to go find a Rathalos in World, yeah, I'd go straight to the top camp. I would go straight there, you know? Like, you don't have that in Wilds at all, really. Yes, you can do it on spawn, but if you don't know, well, you load in and then you press M and then you teleport to your camp and then there you go, you know? It just feels like it lost a lot of that original charm that the Monster Hunter games were known for. They were built around and they developed alongside. This game did not develop alongside them. It ditched them.